using our facilities from outside residents. So this is targeting just middle minor hockey. From day one is not the approach I thought this was going. I thought it was going to be on a level playing field right across the board. Whoever comes from out of town is charged, whether it's our library, and so forth, especially our rec center, when we're trying to, pay for the debt and the cost of operating it. Why wouldn't this go right across the board? So if staff can, inform me on the difficulty of doing this and why this is a challenge, I'd like to know. Thank you.
I can certainly start. So I should note by saying, or I should start by saying that the analysis on this isn't quite complete, right? So if you read the service level change report or request summary, we had intended to come forward in January with a staff report with additional information. We're still in a hold position right now, and are requesting additional time to sort of work out some of these details. And really this came about because of Tiny's announcement to pull their funding, right? And so we also know that OMHA is in discussions right now with the municipalities and looking at merging the associations. Would like to kind of see where that goes as well, because I think that could have an impact on this if Midland, Penetang, Elmville end up merging together. I know Oro and Aurelia have recently agreed that it's a good idea. So I think sort of things are going that way. And again, I'm with Councillor Ball. The last thing I want to do is see this hurt our residents, and that's certainly not the intent of this. It's trying to raise funds to fund our North Simcoe Sports and Recreation Center. And so for now, I guess the hope is that council will provide staff with some direction to continue to sort of work this out and essentially put an allowance in the budget or a target of the 55,000, if you feel like that's a fair number. And maybe that is spreading the cost for all services, right, in that non-resident fee in our fees and charges bylaw. Again, as the mayor noted, we can do that for tennis and pickleball and all that. We're not going to raise a lot of money. Unfortunately, our arena, our gym, those are the areas where we get the most bang for our buck. And so that would be the area that, we are looking at, because that's where we raise the most revenue. But we could certainly try to look at all of our fees in general and see what a 25% increase to say non-residents, what that would amount to in total revenue. But for now, yeah, we just need a little bit more time to sort of work out those details.
Just a follow up. So hockey season's already started, so this wouldn't kick until 2025. So by the time budget comes in 2025, hopefully we would have given you some time to figure the rest of the component of the user fees if we direct staff in that direction. Is that fair to say?
Sorry, through your worship to Councillor Emeritus, I would be suggesting for fall, right? So for the 2024-2025 season, right?
So this is just the beginning, effectively, right? This isn't the be all and end all. And that's what I've been telling the hockey parents, is that we're not, yeah, you're the low hanging fruit right now, because that's where most of our potential to revenue generate is. Adding this to the pickleball rental or somebody renting tennis courts is immaterial. It's not going to really help us. I mean, I don't think it should be ignored, but this is where we start. And then staff will be coming back to us with tweak. And this could be the catalyst, much as the library one was, for the municipalities that have a lot of their residents up in arms. Go yell at their council. You're the ones who don't have funding for us anymore. Maybe they'll come to the table and say, hey, how can we make this so there's no non-resident fee for our municipality? And I'm sure our CFO will sit down happily and say, well, here's the number. And this could be the catalyst for some kind of negotiation, much like what happened with the library, or perhaps it isn't. Either way, Midland taxpayers get some reprieve. whether we can count on it in contributions that are pledged every year or in the ad hoc use of our facilities by people who come and enjoy them. Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Your Worship. I would like clarification on the proposal of $200 per household. Is that for hockey player, for figure skater, and where would the logistics come? Is my first question. And then I'm not comfortable gearing for some savings in our budget when we don't have the full analysis. I'd rather wait until we have the report and then go from there.
CFO, maybe you could also explain how you got to the 55,000. You didn't obviously to make that number up, so I think it'd be helpful for council to know how you arrived at it.
Thank you, through your worship, to Councillor McDonald. So the $200 came from sort of crunching some numbers on what our average resident is paying towards that rec center now, whether they're using it or not. And that's, you know, sort of how that number came about, and trying to, again, sort of level the playing field. We do have some residency statistics from our user groups. We have those for the arena. We have those for, so not just Midland Minor Hockey, also the Boston Pizza League. And so we know that, you know, 47% of the users are Midland residents. 30% are from Tay, 17 from Tiny, and then there is a percentage from Penetang as well, right? Boston Pizza League, you know, those percentages vary, with sort of that Tay and Tiny user group making up anywhere from sort of 20 to 30%, if not more. We also have those numbers for the ball hockey, which is, you know, the summer usage of that arena. So again, we're not just talking Midland Minor Hockey. And again, the user rates are spread across North Simcoe, really, right? And so the 55,000 came from essentially just taking those user groups and sort of multiplying by that $200.
Councilor Meredith?
Thank you, Mayor Gordon, through you to Madam CFO. So if I was, I'm a Midland resident, and I rent the ice surface, and then I pay my, whatever the fee is, I'm not sure what it is, $250 an hour, I'm not sure what it is, $300. And then I have other people that are coming to, you know, I rented it, but I have outside residents coming. They're not impacted by this fee, correct? Because I've already paid for the rental fee for that hour. Is that correct? Is that how this will work? So, because I'm thinking, like, if someone rents the hall for a wedding, we're not going to be starting charging outsiders coming in to use that. So, okay.
And
thank you.
again, and that's why we also need some more time. The goal is to make this administratively, you know, as easy as possible, right? We want to use existing staff to do this. We're not coming and asking for another staff member just to manage this, right? And so you're entirely right. If you're a resident and you book the space, you get the Midland rate. Now, again, with the user groups, it's a little easier to track, right? Because we know where those people live when they're signing up through these associations. And so that's why it feels like we're kind of going after those groups. But again, those are the bulk of the users. And yeah.
I think the other distinguishing point is, and again, I've had lots of feedback at my door, or by email, or by phone, or by Facebook message. That it is real that back in the day, 20 years ago, municipalities ponied up, and you'll see their names on the donor wall, money to build that facility. But for all except for Tiny, whose, you know, contributions yearly arguably are almost immaterial, that was it 20 years ago. What have you done for me lately? How have you been helping to pay for the new roof and the new chillers? And, you know, where's your share of the $500,000 generator? Like, so Midland's been eaten this since it was built. And every year that it ages, the more this has become a burden on us, to the point where some people have even floated, well, to save money, why don't we just thaw an ice surface, right? We can save some dough there. We can lay some staff off and only open a few days a week. And nobody wants to see any of that happen. So the reality is we need to find another revenue stream. And If it costs me $200 a household to have this sports and rec center that I used vigorously when both my kids were in hockey and figure skating, and now I go to celebrations of life in it. That's about all I do in there. It's fair that if it's $200 for me, that should be $200 for anyone else who wants to use it, right? So I think staff have struck a balance here. They're not promising, unlike the parking. I wasn't gonna use that word again today, but I did, where we have unrealistic fantasies of how much revenue we can create off this. I don't think we're being overpromised on this at all. I think this is being fair and measured, and we're gonna see that report come back with some way to recoup costs all across the board, so nobody can say, oh, you're just picking on us. But we're going after the one that's easiest to implement, and we're phasing it in, so we're not trying to go retroactively and claw this back from people that are actively using it now. It's for the next registration. And I would argue could probably have this ready for ball hockey for the summer, right? So it's not like a total wash for this budget year. And we're not reinventing the wheel. All kinds of municipalities charge this. When my kids were in swimming and stuff in Barrie, I had to pay it. I didn't mind because I couldn't have that program here in Midland. To Councillor Ball's point, we don't offer those programs, so we go in other communities. And I don't mind paying the non-resident fee because you know what? I'm not paying any of the capital or operational to support that pool and rec center in Barrie. And I used it once a week for a whole summer. So I'm as concerned as Councillor Ball is about affordability for our residents. But when you go to use a facility in another community, and if you're using it for free, it ain't free. Those taxpayers are subsidizing you. And if one day they wake up and go, man, we can't afford this anymore, don't be shocked if there's a non-resident fee, because that's the way it works. So I think this is a fair and responsible way to implement this. I don't feel that it's being, it's not punitive. And we're agreeing to start it later on and work with these groups rather than, we're doing it with them rather than to them. Even though obviously there's people that don't feel that way. So I'm glad to see this, and I hope to see it expanded, and we'll get this right. It might take some tweaking over this term. Never get it right always the first time, but hopefully we can enjoy some revenues and desperately need the revenues that help pay for the capital needs, never mind the operational costs of that rec center as we move forward. So, not wanting to have the last word, feel free anybody else before we call the question. All right, so all in favor of keeping this, implementing non-resident fees, phase 1, step 1, Sports and Rec Center. All right, make it so, staff. The transition to the Georgian Bay Detachment Police Board. This is largely academic. It's not like we're choosing to do this. The province is making us dissolve our existing police board, and there's creating this new one that's a joint of all 5 municipalities, including a bit of Southern Georgian Bay that's served by Georgian Bay Detachment. And do we have a cost estimated at what it's going to cost for this board, remunerating the appointee, and but we get to share the costs of the provincial appointees, of which there's 3, as I recall, right, Julie? 3 provincial appointees, and whatever their costs are is going to be shared amongst the 5 members. So maybe I'll let Julie's really been deeply involved in bringing this thing to life, and it kicks into life April, I think. So there's a reason why there's the one-time startup costs, and I really thought it was important that we saw that wasn't a gratuitous grab.
Through your worship too. So this definitely in this budget because sorry, is this working now? Okay, so this does come before this budget because there is a legislative change. This board that we currently have, the Midland Police Services Board, will be disbanded. The legislation will be repealed as of April 1, with new legislation coming into effect that in effect has a detachment board of 5 municipalities. The savings there is more from a reporting. The police will then only have 1 report as opposed to 5, as well as a few other things. There will be some startup costs to this. So currently now the board is housed in-house. A staff member does the administrative work. and all the, and act as secretaries to the board as well. Our finance team looks after the finances for this. Our insurance covers the insurance for the board. That's all going to change because the board is now going to be an exterior board. It's a legislated board. It's not a committee of council. I have done some very, very vague budgeting for this. It's very hard because largely the new board will do their own budget. They will set up their own remuneration. It may not be what I'm forecasting. There is such things as and new insurance policy. There's going to be some startup costs like computer equipment and other things like that that could be looked at. It's really hard for me to forecast it. So I'm suggesting that currently we are budgeting almost $30,000 for the board annually. That will increase because costs that we currently absorb as a municipality are then going to have to be outsourced for this board. So the board itself is going to have an increased cost. I think realistically, we could be looking at around a 50% increase toward, or $50,000 cost to this board annually. I won't know that until this board gets up and running. I have got some new direction from the minister today that indicates that there will be a 5-way split as opposed to split per population or calls for service. The minister is now suggesting that it just be an even across the board 5-way split. So that's good news. And then there's a remuneration recommendation from them that if followed could be good news, but if it's not followed by the board, it's not a must follow. It's this is what we're suggesting. So it'll all depend on how this board budgets themselves, honestly. Hopefully with one member of council and one member of the community from each municipality, they're going to be fiscally responsible. And then there are 3 provincial appointees as well. So hopefully they will be as fiscally responsible as we can muster them. But there will be startup costs without a doubt.
Thanks, Julie. And my pledge to this board, or to this council, is that I will be a strong voice of restraint on spending. This thing, in my mind, until I learn otherwise, is going to meet 4 times a year virtually, because there's no reason to try and make people drive in from all over the place to have our meeting. The detachment commander will virtual in as well and present the numbers in 1 time rather than 5 times. And if there's requests to start hiring people to, send out calendar invites and manage it, I'm probably oversimplifying things, but I will be really pressing to make sure that the expenses of this board are kept in check and this doesn't become another Midland Bay Landing Development Corporation or other things that, grew, scope creep and costs overruns and everything. So I'm really sensitive to that. And I'll be lobbying to the other members that, we really need to be careful until we know what the real requirements is of this board. We may think it's a lot more work than it is, or it may turn out to be a lot more work than we think. But again, we don't know what we don't know. So that's, I know this money's on here right now and there's the potential that it could be higher, but I will, I'm pointing myself to the board in case you hadn't guessed. And unfortunately, that's going to mean Councillor Downer's not there because there can only be 1 from each municipality. But I'm keenly interested in seeing this thing get off the ground and with as much restraint as possible. So that's my pledge. And everything that I can do to communicate that to council to keep you guys looped in on it, so you don't feel this is some kind of white elephant. I'll share with council along the way as we start it up. So again, this is kind of academic. We don't really have much of a choice on this line item, but I didn't want you to feel like this was the snowblower at the airport. So, right. So that's really all I can say on that one. Any questions, council, about this? Julie's done so much of the work, and really, I'm only repeating what I've been briefed. Councillor Ball.
I mean, I was just hoping there would be more savings, but this is kind of a moot point because we don't have a choice but to approve this. So
Yeah, look for savings next year. I'll do everything I can. And if it does look like it's going to go bananas. I'll be coming back and talking to you guys and looking for your support as a council to, whatever it is, pass a resolution to the board asking for restraint. I can't imagine this is going to spiral out of control because you look at Tiny and Tay who don't even have police boards. So they haven't been enjoying any of these costs over the years. And now they all of a sudden are mandated to participate and have costs. So I expect my peers at Tiny and Tay will be probably louder voices of restraint than even I am. So anyway, we'll see what happens. Next is the regional host for EDCO event. It's, almost immaterial here. This event is being booked and people are coming. And I'll take it away, Steve.
Thank you, Worship. So this is an EDCO event. So this is the Association for Economic Development Officers. They host 4 regional events throughout Ontario in the year. Last year, the Central Region, which is where we are, was in the town of New Tecumseh. So this year we've been selected as the hosts. We applied for it. We were granted it. So we do have a sponsorship commitment from the County of Simcoe as well as EDCNS. We'll be hosting it at the Midland Cultural, the MCC. Karen and her team has been assisting us as well. We're lining up speakers. It's going to be a really good event. We wanted to just have some additional funding for that event, just so if there's any overhead that we need to have. It is a paid event, so we're not entirely sponsoring this. So members that do come for the event will pay through EDCO. We would anticipate there to be 50 to 70 professionals coming to this event in May. So we're just looking for some additional funding just to cover any additional costs that the town may incur as part of this event. Thank you.
Are they staying overnight?
Through your worship, they could possibly be staying overnight, and we hope they do. We're trying to
Attacks.
and that is potentially one of the topics for a speaker at the event. So the city of Barrie has recently implemented one, and we're looking at them potentially being a speaker to talk about theirs. So it's going to be a great event.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to not give them that little extra money, I don't think the event it's not like it doesn't run with 2,500, but it means we have no skin in the game, which is kind of embarrassing as a host. So. We good with this? All right.
Yeah,
next.
great idea.
Okay. Awesome. Good job. I'm glad we won it. Hopefully we can really take them out, show them a good time. Is there a boat cruise or anything involved, or some wobbly pops after hours? Bar crawl?
Whatever they choose.
Very good.
Our downtown's a great place for nightlife.
We'll showcase make sure the BIA provides you with the list of all the shops and everything. So you can hand that out as part of their goodie bag for Midland. Okay, Midland Cultural Center, Forgiveness of Insurance. This is a rinse and repeat item. It's substantially less this year than last year. Thanks to the good work of Ms. Ellery and having that building cost evaluated and probably cranking up our deductible. No deductible crank up? This is, yeah, the deductible went up a bit, right? The trick, Mike.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, to council. So we did, after last year's request from MCC, I did go out and get a full appraisal on the building with a new appraisal and a proper valuation. And this year's renewal on our insurance, we were able to decrease the premium for that particular building by almost half, which is really, really nice. We're down to just over $12,000. So the request of MCC is not quite as large as it has been in the past. While our deductible did go up on our properties across the board, that didn't really contribute toward the reduction of the premium for this particular property. That was like an overall reduction across the board. So it's properly assessed now or appraised at proper value, which is a great help. And as we move forward, that's going to continue with a number of our properties.
Lovely. And so just to remind everybody, Reinhard Weber, through his foundation and absolute deep generosity to the town of Midland, built that building from the old Roxy Theater and gave it to us for $1. or something like that. Basically gave it to us. The two, well, there's several tenants, but the main tenant, the MCC and the Huronia Players they were well on their path to break evenness and profitability, dare I say, before the pandemic. Then the bottom fell out of performing arts. We saw their passionate plea for the past 2 years. If you saw last councils, it was largely the same for this council. The rationale that most of these facilities, which are around Ontario, where some of them pale by comparison to ours, are heavily subsidized by the taxpayer for the buildings. We get away with basically paying nothing other than owning the building, and they ask us for some insurance right now because they just are still trying to come back from the pandemic and get people to come to the center. Could they do more things to run it and be more profitable and resonate more with the community? Heck yeah. They've got new board that's in place, and I think there's a meeting coming up where they're appointing 3 new members to their board. Everybody's coming to the table with new ideas. Trying to change the stigma that it's just kind of a snooty place for the highbrow people to go to. And when nothing could be further from the truth, but nonetheless, this is a paltry ask basically for a building we own. The alternative is they just keep running further in the hole, never get out of it. And we'll have to bail them out in the end anyway. So long and the short of it is, I understand where they are, why they are. I see a trajectory to them being maybe self-sustaining in the next 4 or 5 years if things keep going well. But in the meantime, they need this money. Otherwise, they're just going to keep, tanking the reserve. And well, they don't even have a reserve, I don't think, but they'll be in the hole. So I support this, but I just wanted to, that's the background for the people at home. I know council knows this because we've all read the letters and heard the passionate pleas. Councillor Downer.
I would support it. I would support it this time, but I think they should be put on notice that we can't keep paying this every year. I mean, the well's got to go dry sometime. I don't know how, if they have to charge more for performances or more for whatever, but we can't keep going the taxpayer to pay this bill. So that's where I stand on it.
And to your point, there is a meeting, this meeting where they're going to be appointing 3 new board members. Council are shareholders. And I would encourage you, I think what's the date? End of February?
February 29th. That come through? Okay.
That's the one. Yeah. It's not going to be
Yeah.
a long meeting. It's
No.
not their AGM or anything.
No, it's appointment of a new auditor and to appoint the 3 new board members. So an invitation from the MCC should be coming to council members shortly.
Perfect. So it'd be a good time to vocalize that to them, either at council or even at this event and meet the new board members. I think it's important bi-directionally that everybody understands where they're at and the efforts they're making and that they're not just, hanging their hat out looking for donations every year. Madam CFO?
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to point out that their letter was requesting permanent forgiveness, just to Councillor Downer's point. So just wanted to make that clear. And also motion number 28 in the report, we still have the 2023 premium to deal with. And so we could either deal with that now or tomorrow as originally planned. Thank you.
Right. So this budget ask is not in perpetuity. This is for 2024. Right? That's number that we're being asked to approve, the 22,000. If we approve that, we're not approving paying that in perpetuity.
The budget ask before you is a permanent ask. They are asking for it in perpetuity.
Okay, I missed that part of it.
Yeah,
I was just thinking this is a yearly ask.
no.
Okay, then. All right, well, that probably will spawn some more questions. Councillor East.
Your worship. I'm gonna put it to you this way. We ended up charging Midland boaters a fee to use the boat launch. And the argument was because many of the town's people that live there don't have boats, so why should they have to pay for it? And it's the same kind of conversation that I've had with people about financing this all the time. There's many Medlin residents that actually don't utilize this service. And I just don't feel that if they don't go and they don't use it, much like boaters that don't have boaters shouldn't be paying for the tax levy on the dock launch. It would be the same kind of feeling that I have for this. I don't think it's fair to put that on Midland taxpayers when many of them don't use it, especially if they're asking for this to be paid every year.
Just for clarity, can we amend this so we would agree to approve 1 year and just kind of strike out the permanent? Knowing this is going to keep coming back, but still? All right, this is not all or nothing then. All right, Counselor Meredith.
Well, I think we should leave it as is and then deal with the 2023 request of 17,928 because this is just going to keep on continuing every year. Last year we were sitting at having the same discussion, and I believe the majority said this is it, and but we keep on coming back and keep on paying the insurance, and we've already gone back and forth. I don't think we should amend this. I think we should just, because that means we're going to be agreeing to the 2024 of 13,000, and then the 17,000 that's coming up later. So that's going to be another, what are we, $40,000 there? Roughly, right? So that means that we'll be approving $40,000, within the next 5-10 minutes. So, anyways, I'm not I'm you know what, we're not a charity. If running this like a business, then and we're in, as I said, fiscal responsibility and taxes and so forth, and trying to find savings. And everybody's in a tough position. So, and it's just tough call, but I stand by what last year I didn't support it, and this year I'm not going to support it as well. Thank you.
Counselor Ball.
Yes, thank you. This already is a subsidized building. I understand that it was donated to us, so it didn't cost us anything, but it also isn't costing them anything. So that's already subsidized for our community. I think that last year I said no more. I'm not doing it this year either, but I did see that they included more inclusive events. They did try to reach more of the community this year. I did take notice of that and appreciated that. So I was willing to forgive this year, but I don't think an ongoing support. No, you can't claim COVID for the rest of eternity. Like, you either are getting new board members and you're going to make a profitable business, or what are we doing? Like, I don't understand how this is an ask and then we're claiming COVID.
Counselor Bald.
Is it on? Yep, okay. Yes, I believe that we should pay the $125,000 and make sure that they understand that. The problem is, it's our building. I believe it's Midland's building, so it's we're sort of in a it's hard to reconcile that. Hopefully they will pick up some cash with some things going on there, because it was a going concern at some point. But I think we have to pay the insurance this year, but maybe be very clear that they're going to have to, do like, I don't know how they're going to get the money, but basically, yeah, it is our building, but they should have to pay some stuff. Okay, thank you.
Counselor East, then Counselor McDonald.
Thank you, through your worship. I'm sure when the Weber Foundation built this building, that they didn't want to impose a weight on taxpayers, and they would have visioned it as self-sustaining at some point. And the truth is that, like, I don't even like that fact that they're coming at us permanently to forgive it. So I know that as a small business owner, I can't, like she said, keep claiming COVID. I've crawled out of it. Many small businesses are still struggling, but they're finding their way through it and they're running some sort of a profit. I don't understand how you can have a business, have it gifted to you every year, this insurance, and come after the town's people for money and money and money when this should be self-sustaining by now. So all I'm saying is that when this building was given to us, I'm sure that it was supposed to be a self-sustaining building by this point. And that's my feelings on that.
Counselor McDonald.
Thank you. Just a question of clarification. We were just told that the premium has dropped to $12,000. So is that what we're expected to contribute? That if we're just dealing with this year, that's what the cost would be, not the 20 some, okay. And I'm in support of giving them one more year, but to ask permanent forgiveness when they get the building rent-free is a bit much. So I have faith that with their new board, and when they set their annual budget, they put that expense there, they'll find the funds.
Ms. Billy?
Just a comment to council, when you say that they don't pay rent an annual, but they do take care of the building maintenance. So if their hot water heaters break, that cost is on them. All building maintenance and facility maintenance, they have assumed that responsibility. So they're only asking for the insurance costs to be covered as a town facility. But the day-to-day operations is what they're covering. Also, they're a charitable organization. For them to be a profitable organization, they have to fall within certain guidelines to do that. And they are stepping up their fundraising.
So tomorrow would be a good chance to grill them and ask them what their plan is. Not coming. No, so not tomorrow. All right, we got Karen Mealing then. Let's put the boots to her for everything to do with the MCC. Anyway, then I invite you on that night. We're all invited to go to that meeting, February 29th. Yeah. February 29th. And you'll have a chance to meet the board then and give them an earful and also learn a bit, hear about what their plans are. So you say it's not the AGM, but it's an opportunity to see them if you can find the time that evening. It would be good. So, absolutely, Councillor East.
Just clarification, if we can put up that motion. I just wanted to make sure that we're not voting on permanently paying for this. Are we changing the wording in that? Because we should be changing the word on that, so we're not responsible to permanently pay that insurance. Because I won't be voting for permanent.
Through you, your worship, to Councillor East, we would reflect that in the motion, that it was for 2024 only, if that's council's direction. And just on Councillor McDonald's comment earlier, the original ask was 22,000 based on what we thought that premium was going to be. Again, as Julie had indicated, the total premium did go down to 13,497, which is the building and contents, which is the piece here.
Building and contents, yes. And building contents, MPST, yes. The contents, however, Lindsay, are owned by the town and just displayed there. They have their own policy for the contents, for things like the seating and all of the other equipment. So the content that we're insuring to take it up to the 13,000 is actually ours. So the actual building cost for the insurance is the 12,120 this year. That is subject to increase like any other insurance in years coming.
So the consensus of council is that we're good with this newly reduced rate of 13,497 for this year only, and that we're not supporting the in perpetuity support. Is that a fair statement? Okey doke. Oh, Councilor Meredith?
Yeah, are we allowed to, so this is gonna keep on coming up every year. We know that. So the letter's already drafted for next year about, so. So are we gonna just continue to go down this path, or can we say this is the final year, in this draft, since we're altering this to say one more year? And if we don't say this is final, then another letter like this is gonna come up again. So I just thought I'd put that out there. If we want to add that in there, it's up to council's discretion. I would be in favor of that. But the majority wins, as we know. So anyways, thought I'd throw that out there.
We could say that, but I mean, nothing stops people from coming to council with their hat in hand, right? But yeah, I mean, we could say that. Sure, why not? Councilor McDonald?
Just clarification of I know it's 1,220 was the premium. Are we paying them for our coverage of our content? Do you know what, you mentioned 13,497, but that includes the content insurance of what belongs to the town of Midland. So why would we reimburse them that little portion?
I can take that one, Your Worship, through you to Councillor McDonald. So we're actually not physically paying them anything. So because this rolls under our policy, we pay our insurer and then we bill them back. And so finance had mistakenly put the contents into the building as well, which is how we arrived at 13,497. Ms. Ellery has clarified that it should only be 12,120, and so that's the number that we would put as forgiveness.
Yeah, so to be clear, it's our building. We're paying it no matter what. It's just, can we extract the funds from our tenant or not is the question. Not ensuring it's not an option, right? So, Councilor East.
Through your worship, you might be able to answer this. Can we charge rent on that building?
Can we, what are the terms of rent for our multiple tenants there? Or technically there's one tenant and they sublet it, if I recall correctly, right?
Through your worship to Councillor East, we do have a valid lease currently. I'd have to go back and check what the term on that is. But right now we have a $1 rental amount until the completion of the term of that lease, which is for several more years. So we, short of amending that lease, which I'm sure they wouldn't agree to, we could not go back and charge rent at this point.
Yeah, we have some BD leases. That'll be the discussion for another day. Our leases are all over the map. All right, so we're content with the 1 year forgiveness, and we can put the soft caveat that don't come back to us again with it, but no, we're not. Oh, okay, so hands up to pay this. We're paying this bill regardless. Okay, let's be clear on this because it's our asset. Hands up to forgive the, putting the invoice under the door at MCC. For 1 year. For 1 year, we're going to pay this bill. Okay. All right. Oh, 1, 2, 3. No, it's 5. Who hands up for paying the bill? It's 5. Yeah, well, I can throw my hand up too, 6, but we had enough. Yeah. Yeah, I've been voting, either symbolically or when we need a tie break. So we need a bio break because our legs are all asleep. Yeah, people are bouncing around in their chairs. So we'll take 5. Okie doke. So we left off at Sesquicentennial Culture and Tourism. I had like a conversation in the stairwell, basically with Karen about this. The proposal is to fund it from our newfound windfall, we hope, of our MAT tax that's getting phased in over the next 3 years. My only concern with approving this as MAT being the funding source right now is that we haven't struck our committee yet. And we haven't sought the input of our committee members. Now, understanding the committee members don't vote and dictate, but they make recommendations, and part of the whole sales pitch to get MAT implemented in town without, pitchforks and torches was that they would have a voice at the table. So what I don't want to do is prejudice that process by coming out of this budget saying we're going to put $25,000 towards this worthy thing that we have yet to fund anything for, our 150th anniversary. I just don't want to prejudice it by saying for sure it's coming from Matt. So, I would feel better if we just move this over to one of our many reserves for now, knowing that it could very well come from Matt. It's just that I really would like to have the chance to meet with the Matt folks and talk about the scope of that committee once it gets going before we actually, come back to council and say, hey, let's move it out of reserve and into Matt tax with their consent and blessing. So I know this may just feel like optics, but from my perspective, it's really important that I honor my commitment and also our late deputy mayor's commitment to the hotelers who are bearing the brunt of collecting this for us, at least initially, until and if we ever do a short-term rental program. So my only ask is I have no problem us earmarking some cash that we have yet to do for this big party for our 150th anniversary, but I'd like to pull it out of Matt column, if only for optics right now, and move it into a funded reserve if that's possible, Madam CFO. And that's my suggestion to council. Of course, I'm in council's hands. Any comment or any concern about that?
Thank you, Your Worship. And so if that is the ask, I would say we would just pull it off this list for now. So right now we have the MAT actually going into the special events reserve anyway. And so once that committee is formed, those meetings happened, I would just suggest that we would leave $25,000 of that money in that reserve, which is then earmarked for this event. Because the only other way to put money into that reserve right now would be to add it to the tax rate.
That's fair. So council, do you understand what I'm asking in the rationale for it? I just don't want to put the cart before the horse. I suspect there'll be an amazing plan for our sesquicentennial party that will involve stay and play and the county and all kinds of stuff. But I just don't want to prejudice the process by, us making this decision without the committee. Councilor Meredith.
Since we're gonna move it to reserves, the ask last
Sorry,
year.
no, it's not going, that was what the Madam CFO said. It
Oh.
can't be directly from reserves. We're just going to delete it from here for now.
Okay. Just the ask then. Last year, the ask was 23,000 a year going up until 2028. And now it's 25. So it went up 2,000. So why did it increase to 2,000 when the ask of last year was 23,000? Throughout every consecutive year. So you're gone up another $10,000, I guess, over its term. Thank you.
Through Mayor Gordon to Councilor Meredith, this is a request I brought to council for this is the 3rd year. I'm trying to have a base budget for this. The activities that we're going to do that year might be an event, it might be a monument, a public art piece. I'm trying to make sure that we have a decent budget to use when 2028 comes without coming to you in 2028 and saying, I need $100,000 or more. And we will seek some grants to assist with whatever we're doing to help offset some costs.
I understand that. So if this was approved last year, I understand that. If it was approved last year at 23,000, this wouldn't have come back up this year because it would have been approved from each, or I guess it would have come back up, correct? But you're asking 23 each year, but that budget probably would have increased over a year as everything else has. I get it. Thank you.
Okay, so effectively, we're going to delete this request, but we're not saying no, that we're not doing it, not important. We're not saying that. We're just removing it as off this list so it doesn't hit the tax rate right now. And together we'll figure out a way to get funds funneling into this reserve so we can do something to commemorate our 150th year since incorporation. Council good with that? All right. Our new Dominion Avenue sidewalk, Margaret Street to Woodland Drive. Councillor Ball.
Sorry, I know Councilor McDonald's gonna throw shade at me for this, but I think we can't maintain the sidewalks we have, so I think we should scrap this completely.
As much as I'm equally skeptical sometimes, and we just authorized a new sidewalk machine, which is going to help. I can tell you that I was not really a believer, but they put the other piece of this in front of my place, and I can't believe how many people use that sidewalk. I mean, it's not the same people that were walking on the road before. People now walk on the sidewalk that I've never even seen before. Or maybe they're new residents in the neighborhood, but it's very, very well traveled. Pun intended. So I'm a bit of a believer on this when I was really skeptical before. I've said it too.
Well, I used to like sitting beside Counselor Ball. This stretch of sidewalk is desperately needed as well. And it's kind of really goofy the way it is right now, because we have a stretch from Carpenter's Park to Margaret, and then none, and then there's that nice block there, and then a nice sidewalk again. So there's this stretch and then the other stretch that I think is going to be more costly because it has the ditches and stuff similar from 8th to Carpenter Park. But I'm very happy to see this part. Then we just have one part left. So I am full support of this, and I'd use it a lot. Be able to tell you if there's a crack in it.
Councillor Meredith?
As well. I would be in favor of holding off on this project. Sorry, Catherine. Just pulling from reserves again and trying to save our reserves a little bit to prolong them, and hopefully we get you know, some income through our planning department coming in with growth. So I would be willing to postpone this for a few years. Thanks.
So it's put sidewalk down or don't put sidewalk down this year. We'll just do the hand thing if there's no more commentary. Put the sidewalk down this year as is in the budget. Hands up if you want the sidewalk down this year. It is delayed for a year, because we'll see it back next year. Next up, the additional dog park. I can kick this off. This was one of the first things actually was I read through that I read circled going, where did this come from? However, I do converse with the dog park folks who are, would like to have access to our existing dog park in the winter. And I've also read the replies from staff about the trouble we have in maintaining that gravelly road and clearing the lot. So the suggestion of a second dog park came up. It didn't say where, but the first thing I asked myself is, hey, I agree, a dog park would be great to be accessible all year round. Why couldn't we just rip up the fence, pound them in at new location, and presumably new location is a year-round one that we can keep access to, and move the dog park rather than have a second dog park? If that's not possible, then I would think we need to pump the brakes on this one because it doesn't feel like a necessity when we already have one. Staff, and then we'll go around the table here.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to council. Yeah, so this initiated from the Parks and Trails Master Plan, and it doesn't necessarily identify a particular location. So nor have we here. It just spoke to the need that the plan is from 2018 or 19 there, and again that assesses the needs of the community and speaking with the community. Right, that's sort of the process to develop that plan, and at that time. The conclusion was made that there was strong desire and need for an additional one. So we've decided to present it here in this fashion, aligned with that request from master plan. The thought would be that we again purposefully have left out a particular location, and the thought would be if this were to be approved, we would provide several options that staff felt were
were safe, viable options in terms of locations that could be accessed year round. But put that out to the public, let, get some public engagement going and let the public decide where to, it would be best located. To your question, Mr. Mayor, around sort of moving it, you'd be probably literally looking into pretty much the same cost to do so anyway. So I wouldn't recommend that. And the reasoning again for why the current location is not accessible all year round is similar to the staff report that came in the fall to council here regarding the plowing of Little Lake Park pathways, et cetera, right? That is, it's just such a small, sensitive ecosystem that introducing winter maintenance on that stretch into that parking lot will have dramatic impacts to the Little Lake water quality and the ecosystem in general. So staff continue to strongly recommend against providing access down there, plowing down there, and providing winter maintenance, which is our current practice. And instead, aligned with, again, the Parks and Trails Master Plan, suggest that this route would be the better route to go, is to find a new location for another one that's accessible all year round and it meets that need.
Okay, and my last go-to thing was, and I used to do this during COVID and I was breaking the law. But I used to take my dog to the fenced in on Woodland Drive, the fenced in ball diamond. And that's where the dog used to run, in there when there was no one else around. And if it pooped, which she does, I picked it up and got rid of it. But so maybe an option for a second dog park, or one that's available in the winter could be I don't know if this is a horrible thought, but could be something that already is fenced, that's relatively not escape proof, but difficult to escape from with attentive owners. Could be one of those existing facilities if there's genuinely need for it. Otherwise, I'd rather save the 30 grand. Just my thoughts, but tell me if I'm nuts about using an already fenced in enclosure.
Yeah, through you to council, I wouldn't recommend doing so in any type of fenced in area that's specifically, a sports field or recreational amenity of some kind intended for another use. Because as much as I'm glad to hear that you're a responsible dog owner, sadly, there are lots that aren't. And that causes other issues. And it's a safety issue, considering in those spaces, you often have children who are the attendees and participants in those areas. So it's not recommended to mix uses there. But if there was another location that's already fenced in, again, that didn't fall into those kind of categories that is within town and I'm not familiar with, then that's something staff could consider. I just wouldn't want to recommend mixing uses there.
Fair enough. And just let everyone know, I stopped doing that once we were, allowed out of our homes again. But anyway, I was just trying to think outside the box, and if there is a genuine need, how can we do it without spending money? But I think I heard something about dirt eating, and I can understand the concern about parasites and other things. So, Councillor Ball.
Yeah, that's my kids eating the dirt. Yeah, that was my exact rationale, is why can't we just move it somewhere else? So there's no maintenance on this that we do now. Like I would like to see it accessible, so I'd like to see it moved anyways. Whether that's for the 30K, or I would hope that it has some savings, and I would like to see that one that we have now turned into something like a pickleball court, so we can, we have a lot of other uses for Little Lake Park, that the dog park could be moved to somewhere that is accessible. I agree, it should be accessible all year round. So is there no cost savings in moving it? You're saying it's the exact same cost whether we put a new one in or move it?
Through your worship to Councillor Ball, just again, not having looked into exactly what that cost would be, I'm just suggesting it would be something similar. Or, only slightly more so to now add your second location. I would also suggest that, again, that what came up yesterday is the fact that we have in the 10-year plan and I believe it's in next year, even 2025, proposed doing a Little Lake Park master plan. That would be the time you look at what's your current usage in terms of your space allocation and what recreational pursuits are available. Are they appropriate? Are they not? What are your misses, et cetera? That's when you would explore those types of questions. So it would be somewhat I would premature before taking on that exercise. So again, I would still view this as separate, and I wouldn't really again, without running the numbers, that I would suggest they're fairly similar.
Thank you. I would like to move it. And I mean, I think preached about the fact that I don't love all these consultant requests. So I think that we maybe don't need all these plans from consultants and that we can do that in-house a little bit, but that's besides the point. It has nothing to do with this, but I would like to move it, not add one.
Okay, so the ask right now is for an additional one for 30K from reserves. People in support of funding a second dog park for $30,000 from reserves, put your hands up. All right. Next, skate park improvements, pump track installation. This was another head scratcher that I immediately circled, but to be fair, I really didn't know much about it, so I had to ask a little bit about it. Where did it come from? Never heard of a request for it. Take it away, staff, or Councilor McDonald, is this something you know about?
Yeah, I want to be able to use one. No.
I just picture you
Penetang-
skateboarding.
Yeah. Penetang, I believe, just installed a beautiful pump track. And if you want to use one, they can. Yeah, just off of Point Street. It's pretty impressive. But I can't support having one at this time.
Mr. Plenary, maybe just for the people following at home, pump track, they're probably scratching their heads as I was. Maybe just describe what this is and
Yeah.
what it's made of, why it's so expensive.
Yeah, through your worship to members of council. To clarify too, this essentially this is also from the Parks and Trails Master Plan, right? Again, that's why these master plans are made, and staff bring forward the ideas and the recommendations from time to time. And here's another example. So excuse me, the master plan calls for, no, it doesn't specifically say we need a pump track in Midland, but it does say that there is a need for increased opportunities for recreation for sort of the, post-toddler into adolescent sort of age groups. So this is a staff's done some homework, and this is one of the things that is up and coming, and it's intended for all age groups. So it's potential that Councilor McDonald, you may get out there one day if it was out there. You may want to try the one in Penetang. You never know. But no, and often what you do when the companies that builds pump tracks also do skate parks as well, build them, enhance them, etc. So if council were to support this, essentially it would be the process would be that when you first hired a company, they go and now meet with your residents. They there's system and processes. They go to high schools and they talk to kids for you, and what does the youth want, and whether that be a skate park improvement or enhancement that included a pump track or not, or is it what type of skate park specific, say, enhancements they would prefer. They do all of that groundwork and public outreach for you. And then based on that feedback, you could develop a plan. So it isn't that, so I apologize if this wasn't written that clear. That would be just, say, an option. It's that the company kind of they have lots of options to enhance your skate park, and they really do get community feedback on what that could look like, should look like according to the public, and then create the plan.
Counselor Bald?
There is one of those skateboard things in the park. It's right beside, like, sort of down towards the baseball diamond. I mean, it looks kind of weird because they spray paint everything. So you're thinking about another one, like at the park, or?
Through your worship to Councillor Bald, no, yeah, it's actually, what this proposes is to enhance that existing site. So there's, space around it, and again, when you hire, these types of companies, they'll design what you're looking for, and on the space you have, you know, that you're providing. So what we've proposed here is actually just to enhance that current existing site in Little Lake Park.
Counselor Ball?
Thank you. I'm just wondering how do we feel, I guess, how easy this is to vandalize? I get a lot of complaints from people from the skate park. I have kids that age that would go to the skate park. A lot of people that talk to me are also parents of kids that go to the skate park. And there's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen there on a regular basis that I'm sure you're doing, but a lot of people report needles there, unsafe hazards similar to that. So installing something this expensive, I would be worried about the vandalism that would occur with that, especially being in an unfenced area. I would support skate park improvements that are possibly half that cost, and not as easy to vandalize, but I would like your opinion about vandalism and how easy it would be to vandalize something like this.
Through your worship to Councillor Ball, yeah, that is sort of, it's a common approach that municipalities or recreational providers will permit, say, at skate parks, you know, spray painting, right? Now, nothing that's vulgar, or, you know, there's a line, so we will come out and remove anything that crosses that line. But that is, you know, common with that culture, we'll say. And so, what I've found in my experience is if you tell everyone, no, you can't, well, they're going to do it somewhere. And if
Sorry, I
you
just
if
wanted
you
to
give them
talk
one location,
specifically
they'll
to
do it.
safety hazards. Spray painting is fine. Barry
Yeah.
had an entire spray painting event where they allowed people to spray paint it. I think
Yeah.
that's fine. I'm just
Okay.
specific to safety hazards like needles. Just before you can continue, I don't want you to waste your time. Just
Okay.
explain. I don't think that's the issue. I think that needles are the issue, and people using the skate park as a place to do drugs.
Yep, sure. Through your worship to Council Ball, you know, Mr. Fuller may be able to add to it, but to the best of my recollection, it's sort of a few needles a year that are reported to operations that we do have to go remove in that area. But you know, there's sadly more so in several other. It wouldn't be the top of the list of locations within town that we have those issues. It would be on the list. But no, to be quite honest, not overly common. It hasn't been my experience that there's been any significant vandalism or hazards of any kind that skate park attracts. No.
I can name a hazard. I tried to teach my kid how to use the bowl, and I'm an idiot. And I gave him bad advice, and he broke both his forearms. He'll never forget that. They asked Dad how to get into the bowl in his BMX. And, I'm such an idiot. Anyway, he's whatever. Councillor Prost, then Councillor East.
My suggestion would be to, because this kind of just showed up here. You mentioned that we'd have a Little Lake master plan coming up. Personally, I don't like the location of that. I think it's a great spot we have for younger people, but it's kind of in a dark back corner, and it's kind of creepy, but that's me, right? I guess they like it. I just, when you got trees and I don't know. Anyway, I have no problem with it being there either. But I think before we start spending a lot of money, maybe we should hang on to it and see what comes up with a master plan and what our youth come forward and tell us. So maybe hold off, certainly for this year.
Councilor East.
Thank you, through your worship. Uh, Wants versus needs, right now, that's just a want. And I can't support that right now. I mean, if anything, if we're gonna throw that kind of money in, I think younger generation need a civic center to go hang around. And that would be more valuable than something like this right now. So want versus need, this is a no.
All right, so straw poll time. Who wants the pump track? I was Googling it to make sure I was thinking of the right thing. It's kind of cool looking, but there is one in Penetang right now. However, that's not an argument I want to use often because I have something that I'd like here that there's also in Penetang, but gotta still say it to be fair. All for the pump track, hands up. All right. Sorry. Okay, thanks. And we'll see, we can see this come back. But to be fair, I don't know that we really need to pay a consultant to talk to our youth about what cool stuff they'd like to see in the community. I'd be happy to, or I'm sure Councillor Ball's
Still
probably.
accepting applications for youth council.
Yep. If we can't stand up the youth council, because I know we've been trying to, I'd be happy to reach out on behalf of council to both of the student councils at both of our high schools. And maybe put the task to them, like Little Lake Park, upgrades, or around town. What would you like to see? We can even make it more ambiguous. We don't have to decide right now. We can talk about this as a council at a regular council meeting. Maybe you invite them in, but let's hear from them. I don't think we have to pay a consultant to do that. We're long overdue in actually engaging with our youth directly as a council. I know we're trying, but maybe the formality of a youth council isn't resonating with them. So maybe we just need to go to them where they're at. Anyway, suffice to say, that one's off the list for now. We are now at additional vehicle deputy fire chief. I know there was some confusion originally when I was asking about this, whether this was an issued vehicle, which would then become like a, taxable benefit to the fire chief, or is this just basically adding another vehicle to the fleet? And everyone in the fire department knows that's a deputy fire chief's truck, so take it at your own peril, but it's still part of the pool, which then doesn't trigger those tax implications. So I'll turn it over to the chief to basically justify this need for an additional non-emergency, well, I guess it is emergency response vehicle, a little flashy lights and a siren, I'm sure, but a pickup truck for the chief, fire deputy chief.
Thank you, your worship, and to council. I sheepishly sit before you asking for an additional pickup truck for the fire service. And the reasoning behind it is we currently have two. One is mainly used by our fire prevention officer to move equipment and to do his inspections. There's another one that we're using for training, emergency response, as well as the on-call officer who happens to be the deputy chief. Because I'm a shared employee, I go both ways, right, for both municipalities. As well as the deputy chief is on call 24/7, 365 as the emergency, the CEMC for the municipality here. The challenge that we have is the former chief leaving, what the deputy chief would have to do is use his personal vehicle, go from home, drive to the fire hall, get his gear, load it up in hopefully a pickup truck that's still there, and then travel to the scene. Because of the staffing levels for command officers to support our staff at emergency scenes, we need to get them there in a timely manner. The deputy chief responds directly to the scene again to support what's happening, as well as to support me and manage what's going on. When we're sharing a vehicle amongst multiple people, that vehicle can easily disappear, right? So the ask is for an additional pickup truck to be used by we're going to call it the on-call officer, so that we're not triggering any of these taxable benefits. There's only two of us, so we know who the on-call officer is going to be most of the time. It's for use for emergency responses. Right? I welcome any questions that
Okay, so to be totally fair though, if the idea is to get them away from using your personal vehicle with your bunker gear, you know, blinking your high beams, woo, yelling out the window, to actually have a real fire truck to go directly from wherever you are, which could be Costco in Aurelia, right? You could be shopping. Is the expectation that this thing is out of town and it's kind of like you'd be driving it if you're the on-call duty guy and you may be responding from Costco, fire in the, you know, the kayak in the back and down to a fire call? Is that a realistic expectation, or is this really meant for, you know, in town here only?
through your worship to council, the vehicle mainly stays in town, right? And the response would be from home directly to scenes. If the deputy or whoever the on-call officer person that's using the vehicle is going to do personal shopping, going to Costco and Barrie, they would not use the town of Midlands vehicle, right? There would be obviously any of the responses around here because we support with mutual aid, we go to our neighboring, that's what it would be used for, but it would not be used for personal tasks, if you wish. Now, saying that on the way home or, you know, there might be opportunities or times where you're stopping to pick up some groceries or something of the such. But again, it's for the on-call portion. And if they were using it to go on vacation or going to town, I mean, maybe in the town, it would be left in the driveway, but if they went on vacation, it would be left at the fire hall for use by the next on-call officer or staff.
Okay, thanks. That makes it clear, because that was the confusing distinction with the ask originally. It was more like an issue vehicle, so.
And I think just to be fair, I think the way I wrote it up initially, it does look like it's for an assigned vehicle for the deputy, and then it does trigger a whole bunch of other things. It is, if we word it properly, it's a fire department vehicle that's used by the on-call officer.
Lovely. Counselor Ball?
Thank you. Can we not currently just pay kilometers for use of personal vehicle to get right to the scene?
Through you, your worship, to Councilor Ball. So the practice of using personal vehicles to go directly to the scene is not something we've seen, I'm going to suggest, in the last 10 years, if not 15. The carrying of bunker gear that off gases all the time in a personal vehicle, that creates a whole bunch of other carcinogens and other issues. At no point in time would I be supportive of that. We've gone away from that. We don't even allow our volunteers to carry their bunker gear. When they go to training sessions, they use fire department vehicles to go there because we don't want to cross-contaminate. The days of putting your bunker gear in the back and then the next day you put your groceries next to it, that's not something that's done anymore because of the carcinogens that are available in the materials.
Okay, thank you for giving me that education.
Could I ask about the insurance impact of responding with your personal vehicle? I know when I was a volunteer firefighter in Tiny for, or was 6 or 7 years, my insurance went up. I had to answer the question when they asked me, are you using this thing for work? Well, I'm a volunteer firefighter. I'm responding to fires. Back then, we did have our gear in our vehicle if we didn't think we'd make it to the hall, and I had to pay more. And that ended up actually costing me almost the same amount I made in responding to calls. So I kind of broke even. Certainly wasn't a profitable business, but I really did enjoy it. And so I'm just wondering, you know, from a deputy chief perspective, and the number of calls you'd be responding to would be far greater than you know, me and my past volunteer experience. What are, if we were to deny this vehicle and you were to have to continue using your personal vehicle, I'm just wondering what we may, obviously, if there's an increased insurance risk, I would assume your work would have to pay for that, aka us. I'm just wondering, is that being impacting us already? Are you already being receiving any type of remuneration for increased costs, gas, etc.?
So through you, your worship, to council, just for clarification, as Chief Ryan was leaving and I was coming on board, the agreement was that the deputy chief would use one of the current vehicles to go back and forth from home so that he can respond to these emergencies. You are correct that I'm thinking as we're talking here, because it's not a practice that's been followed, I would suggest, for the better part of 10 years in most municipalities, right? I don't remember it in my at least 15 years, so I'm using 10. If you are going to use a green light and respond to the fire hall to get on a truck or to a scene, you are supposed to declare that to your insurance, and depending on what insurance company you have, they will decide on what the increased cost is. We don't want personal vehicles going to a scene, simply because there's a lot of stuff happening at a scene, and the last thing we need is additional vehicles clogging the area. It's one thing to have a fire department vehicle on the scene, and if something goes wrong, if somebody, gets excited, the vehicles gets damaged, it's a fire department municipal vehicle as opposed to your personal vehicle. And again, at the scene, the last thing we want is to be pulling gear, wearing gear, getting in. So part of the job that the deputy would do at a scene is notify the PIOC, which is the Provincial Emergency Operations Center, call the OFM, speak to owners of the property to find out what happened. There's several things to happen, and you don't want people to be coming into your personal vehicle to turn around and do that.
Council Meredith.
I won't take long with this one. I'm going to, I'm not in favor of it this year. You're probably expecting that answer from me. I think we could push it another year and just go with the way we've been doing it, or you've been doing with it. And I understand where you're coming from. Just got a big ask, which is awesome for you guys and for the town of Midland, the residents. So I'm just going to back away from this one this year. So I'm sure we're going to see it next year. Thank you.
Madam CAO, you have something to add?
So through your worship, so just to speak to the insurance part, so we would actually, in this case, we would never have someone go with a personal vehicle to a scene, so they would always go to the fire hall and go, so the insurance part would never come into play on that. Just, but just also to note, so something we do need to, it may be deemed a taxable benefit, no matter what, just because whether you're using it as long as you take it home 24 hours. So that's just one thing I just did want to touch base on. But from an insurance standpoint, just wanted everyone to know that there wouldn't be any risk there, because we would hopefully never want or encourage anyone to take a personal vehicle to a scene. It would be go to the fire hall, either take a vehicle that's there or get on the truck. Thank you.
Thanks. And that was my concern right from the beginning, is that, this could have a material negative impact on a deputy chief's income in his taxes that, maybe we didn't intend to put on him as a result of this. So it looks like a gift, but really it's a curse. So that's what immediately came to mind, because I deal with this with my other life with our traveling salespeople and issued vehicles and things. So at any rate, Councillor McDonald.
Thank you. Currently, you have a system that's working. It's not ideal, but I will not be able to support further expenditure for the fire and emergency services when you have something that poverty sometimes, or lack of things, brings a team closer together. So I know you'll work it out without a new vehicle.
Councillor Downer.
Thank you, Your Worship. While I support getting a vehicle for the deputy chief, like you say, you don't want personal vehicles at the scene for the reasons that the chief has stated. So I'll support a vehicle for the chief at this time, or for the deputy chief, rather.
Anything else to add to this before I do the straw poll? Oh, Councillor East, I'm sorry. So quiet as a church mouse there. Okay. All right, so in favor of funding a new vehicle for the fire service, hands up. Well, I'm gonna be the guy. Yeah, now everyone's gonna think they're our favorites. Anyway, I'll leave it to you guys to work this out so it doesn't euchre our deputy chief as a taxable benefit somehow, whatever that takes, because you're out of town, but you're not far out of town. Oh my goodness, I did have some cuts here to try and save a bit more money than I'm doing so far, but that's the way this works, isn't it? All right, well, that is the end of this list. And so I'll need a new motion, which I'm sure Madam Clerk is busy doing. And then perhaps, since we're actually doing something that impacts today's budget, we could get an update on what changes we've made to the positive for our ratepayers. Because I know we've made some. We just haven't cut as deeply as we could have. I think realistically, given the time, I mean, I know I have this thing at 6:30, but I think we can probably get through the council request. It's not a long list and we can just power through it. Then we're actually entirely back on track for day 3. We've made a lot of headway today, council, considering how talkative we all were yesterday, myself inclusive. Or we got to do this motion first, but they're editing it because we of our hacking and slashing and generosity. Equal bouts of same. just for the folks online, we're just updating our latest motion after all of our changes, and then we'll be dealing with that. And then the last thing of the day is our council and committee request summary. All right, council, we've got our edits to motion number 18. So this reflects all the changes we just made. So this is moved by Councillor Prost, seconded by Councillor Downer, that the service level change requests with a net tax levy increase of 75,484 and reserve funding of $305,010 and other revenue totaling $75,000 be approved as amended. We're removing one FTE community planner position. We're removing one FTE senior analyst IT governance risk position. That the one FTE facilities and transit project coordinator be approved as a one-year contract. That we approve 4 additional firefighters at the 5th class rate, adjusted annually for eligible wage increases. Oh, very good. Here's the other one back. That was just a dry run, so now we have another one. Still moved by Councillor Pro, seconded by Councillor Downer, that the service level change request with a net tax levy increase of $75,484, reserve funding of $305,010, and other revenue totaling $65,000, that's $10,000 less, be approved as amended by removing one FTE community planner position, removing the one FTE senior analyst IT governance risk position, that the one FTE facilities and transit project coordinator be approved as a one-year contract, approve the 4 additional firefighters at 5th class rate adjusted annually for eligible wage increases, that the cruise ship passenger fees be increased to $5 for a total annual estimated revenue of $10,000, that the Midland Cultural Center forgiveness of building insurance request be approved for the fiscal year 2024 only, that we remove the 2028 Midland Sesquicentennial request from Matt, remove the new Dominion Avenue sidewalk, Marta Street to Woodland Drive, remove the additional dog requests, and finally remove the skate park improvement pump track installation report. Council, that accurately reflects our conversation for the past hour. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. All right, last one for the day. And we're back on track again too, which is lovely. Are the council and committee requests. We'll start with the splash pad at the top of the list. This one has been edited since the the document went live. There's a long story to, well, anyway, the short story is the intention is not to approve installing a splash pad right now. The splash pad is already been approved by previous council but left unfunded. The next logical step in the sequence, assuming you support ever having a splash pad, is that we provide some funding to staff so they actually spend some time on this rather than just having it as one of the many things on the approved list. And cost out gets, I would say, get down to 3 options. And return back to council with the cost estimates, not only for the capital to build one of those 3 options, like, the platinum, the gold, the bronze, whatever, that we put that out to the public to pick and vote on, just as we did with the playground equipment. And part of that report will also be not only the capital for those 3, I'm using 3 as an example because it's probably the easiest, but also the operational costs. And the goal will be nothing anywhere near the amount that was estimated in the draft budget, because that would be absurd and I could never support that. But let's look at something that's more in the range of around 50 grand a year to operate. What this does is bring the top 3 recommendations back, as well as a location, which I'm naively assuming will be Little Lake Park, but maybe in the calculations and the look, that staff do, maybe another place is better. Council will get that prior to the next budget cycle. We'll have the input from the community, and then we can decide which one of those 3, if any, we're prepared to go ahead with. The next sort of milestone on this project, if it's approved for the next budget cycle, we'll see an RFP prepared and vendors shortlisted and the RFP awarded. And that then will trigger me to put my fundraising hat on, and then I can go to the service groups and the in-kind folks for cement and for pipes and for electrical and sponsorship, and rattle the bushes so that when we actually slide in the debit card to withdraw money from the PUC community reserve that I'm suggesting it be funded by ultimately, that let's just say hypothetically it is $1 million to put in a splash pad, which it actually probably could be, that we would only end up, say, pulling out of reserves 400,000 because I found 600,000 through my efforts to try and get it funded and sponsored. So that's my long-term objective that I've been communicating about how I'd like to see this play out. That is not how it was pitched in the draft budget. So after reworking this with staff, it's been amended so that the request is for $50,000 coming from one of our reserves right now, so not banged onto the tax rate immediately. And that will give staff funding and the go-ahead to start doing the research on it. That's kind of my high-level summary of where we're at with the splash pad. Of course, if you choose not to support the $50,000, then it's assumed that you don't support splash pad in principle anyway, and then we wouldn't start the process, and it would just remain as an unfunded capital project. I believe that is an accurate summary. However, I'm in CFO's hands or CEO's hands if I've misstated or mischaracterized the process or the ask.
Thank you, Your Worship. The only thing I would clarify is the $50,000 ask we included yesterday in the amended capital program. And so that's been dealt with.
Oh, all right. Well, here I am ready to tap dance for my splash pad funding for that thing. I don't know if council realized that that was baked in. I didn't really speak to it yesterday, or I would have talked about it at the time, but while I'm happy, and I mean, put it this way, I'm in council's hands right now. We approved this already. If anyone's having cold feet and thinks, it'll be a cold day in hell, I ever vote for a splash pad in Midland, you'll have your chance to vote against it when the stuff comes before us as a report. But I would prefer to do this with you collectively in unison than, this is a big project that means an awful lot, I think, to a lot of people. And there are some detractors out there. We hear from them. but I would like to go into this with, you know, unanimity that let's spend $50 in earnest to actually cost out what this thing could look like and see if it is worthy. I can tell you, if it's gonna be 200 grand a year to operate, this guy ain't voting for it. So that's kind of where we are. Counselor East.
Your worship, thank you first of all for finally bringing it up front. I pledged to all my voters that this was going to be a project that I would fully support. I brought this to council's attention almost 10 years ago, and it actually showed up in my Facebook memory that I've been bugging council to do this. So I'm very happy to see this. I think that it's a great opportunity to grow our community, especially if we drop it down in a place like Mill Lake Park where those volleyball courts are. We already have hydro running water there from that building and a pavilion to keep them out of the sun. I'm not saying that that's where it should be, but the thing is that what we would be doing was providing young families the opportunity to cool off in the middle of the summer and create some great memories. So I'm fully supporting this and on board with it.
Counselor Ball.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree that this is a good place to start. I think that there has been people that did commit funds saying that they would support this, but sorry, obviously you can't support something that you don't have a plan or solid operating costs. Obviously, this number is, in my opinion, out to lunch, like based on all the other townships that have splash pads. Like $1 million is a ridiculous number, but I would like to see the logistics and the actual numbers behind it, and I think this is a good step towards that.
Counselor Downer.
Thank you, your worship. I can't support installation of a splash pad at this time. I think it's we have too many pressures on us. Not that I don't like splash pads. I think the one in Penetang is good, and I can take my grandkids over there, and I think it's too big of an expense to take on at this time. Thank you.
Okay, well, as stated by staff, this 50 grand to get the ball rolling and get the estimates has been approved. I would have liked it to be all unanimous on here, but there'll be an opportunity once it's presented to anybody here to change their mind and not support it, or to reaffirm the fact that it's not a good idea when that report comes back to us with the options. Because it's not going to go out to the public for them to start picking on things until we give a plan a blessing, or at least the top 3 blessings. So it's not really even on their screen for us to debate. That was my mistake. I had it on my screen. Councillor Meredith, you haven't weighed in on this. Would you like to add anything before we get to what the screen actually says?
Yeah, just a comment. Timing is everything when it comes to this project. It'd be nice to get the information of what we're going to be up against when we can actually, pull the trigger on this if it happens, if it works out. I did talk to a counselor in Collingwood, and their splash pad, it went, the success of it and the people, the residents enjoying it, and all the feedback from what he got was extremely positive. But again, it's timing, as Councillor Downer said, the pressures that we're under. So when it makes sense, I think our residents, and would be happy with this, and so it's all about timing for me and how we're spending. So, but it's a good first step, as Councillor Ball alluded.
Lovely. Okay, so hopefully we're going to see that come back before the fall, because we'll have to talk about it for budget. Councillor McDonald, and then we'll get to the boat launch, parking attendant and shelter.
Thank you. Just clarification that the $50,000 that we approved in the capital budget, is that to hire a consultant to do the initial work, or how is it going to be spent?
I can take that, Your Worship, through you to Councillor McDonald. It could be partially. It's not fully. The idea is there, as the mayor alluded to, that to get this into our work plan and have a pot of cash so that we can work through a preliminary design to bring some factual stuff back to council to make a decision, to do the consultation with the public. We could start simply with consulting the public on, location types of things and features they'd like to have in the splash pad. Those won't cost us money. We won't bring consultants in for those. It'll be more the preliminary design aspect as we start to investigate our options and where we think this project will go.
Thank you.
So would that mean we have like a pick type session as we did for Young Street? Because having some ideas on the board would definitely help with my fundraising capabilities. Because I know there has been people ready to commit real money to this project, but they're not willing to do so until we do. So it would be something like that, a pick session for this once you've identified a location or locations.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly what I'm envisioning, especially if there's opportunities for external funding and whatnot. I think we need to do something like that. That's one of the best, an open house style. I like to get the feedback from the public myself. So to support that, we may need to put a little bit of work in to, come up with some renderings, some draft concepts, things like that. So yeah, that's exactly what we're envisioning.
Lovely. And you just said the magic word about grants, or indirectly said that several of the Canadian vendors of splash pads, that not only sell the pieces, but do the installation right on their websites, because it behooves them to. There's a whole section on there of links for grants, and by the province, no less. Each province where you are on grant funding opportunities. So we'll be looking for every opportunity to reduce the burden on our reserves and ultimately on our taxpayers for not only the capital to build this thing, but the early operational expense to keep it going through sponsorships and other grants. So to your point, we've never funded you or made this a priority, and apparently now we have. So thank goodness. And let's see. We don't know what we don't know. So thank you. All right. Knowing that I'm the one that said I wanted to get here at 6:30, I'm going to stop talking. And boat launch, parking attendant and shelter, Councillor Emeritus, this is your ask. I'll let you, it's defined here. We've all read it. We heard, leading up to this, but the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Gordon. So last year we obviously approved to start charging for the boat launch to pay for the upgrades down there. And it didn't turn out to be well. There was gaps in people using it for free and so forth, and there wasn't an attendant down there. So this is an ask to have a permanent attendant down there. My initial ask was for the structure of this ticket booth hut was, I believe, $5,000 to $8,000. I was disappointed when this report came out and it was 27,400. I'm by no means am I gonna allow us to spend 27,400 on a ticket booth. I don't know how this number derived at this. Well, actually, I was explained there was a concrete pad, there was air conditioning, there was software, there was a few other things. So my interpretation of a ticket booth was, well, a ticket booth, something like the ticket center you have down at the Midland Harbor. It's that red booth that I think they sell tickets for one of the fast boat or something like that, right? That is my interpretation of a ticket booth, not a 10 by 10 shed, and not on a cement pad. This booth is there, and if we cannot make money with this project, we spent money on a cement pad and so forth. This is an idea of putting someone out there for this year, and if we do not have a positive revenue coming from it, then we know we can't make money at the boat launch, right? So therefore, this little ticket shed could be used somewhere else or sell it. So it's very, very minimal. You're asking for some power, a small little ticket booth, go to Canadian Tire, buy a dandy air conditioner / heater that plugs in. We use them at our cottage all the time. A Moneris little machine that's linked with the ones you already have at your ticket counter. It's very simple, very economical, but to put my name beside something for 27,400 was very disappointing. And I got phone calls on this, and that is not my ask. And if you're confused about my ask because of the price tag, I think a call should have came out to me, but in no way if this cannot be done for under $10,000, I'll be the first one to scrap it.
So I was thinking for something temporary as well for a year. This is a proof of concept. So maybe like renting a job site trailer, like not the big honking 20 footers, but the smallest one you can get with a little window and a door and stairs. It just literally rolls over there and put down the feet or however this works. And get our town electrical guy to wire it into the nearest lamp post. You know, right? Just to keep this all cheap, but still safe. And we're not going to keep money in it. There'll be no float in it or anything like that. And so I was thinking, like, how cheaply can we do this without looking hokey? And I think maybe on a rental or something like that, just to try this out for a year to see if we actually get more uptake is reasonable. And then we can just return the thing after. We don't know somebody we can borrow one from. Maybe for all I know, we have one. Maybe NT Power has one they can bum us. I don't know, but I echo Councilor Meredith's concern, and I've shared them when I saw my splash pad thing, right? So, you know, this is erring on the side of crazy expensive, and we're trying to do things hella cheap to see whether the, you know, the juice is worth the squeeze again, to see if we can get stir up compliance and also have our staff down there be ambassadors for Midland. They're not just there to hammer people, but they can catch a line and they can give out brochures for where's to eat and stay in town. Be our little ambassadors like our summer students already are down there. And if they run into problems or someone, you know, basically says, go pound salt, I'm not paying, and tries to splash their boat, well, 911, call the OPP and they deal with it, right? So none of our staff would ever be put in conflict. They don't have to be deputized or made bylaw officers. We can just keep this as simple and cheap as possible and just see if we can actually make some revenue out of this thing to keep paying for the docks. So I'm with Councillor Meredith. If we can do this cheaper, I'm all for it. Councillor McDonald.
Okay, so we have a $5,000 ticket booth. But what I'm having trouble, well, no, we're cutting that down, right? Right. So say we have the ticket booth at a reasonable price. How is 32,600 going to be there? Like, that's enough salary for 7 days a week, dusk to dawn? That to me isn't even feasible. And we have bylaw officers that should be there. If they haven't paid, then fine them, have them towed away. I don't think we have to pay someone to be there. So I won't be supporting this boat launch parking attendant proposal.
Mr. Flannery, just we've thrown a lot out there, or we're, you know, solutioning on the fly here. Can you, is there any reality check you need to give us, or are we coming up with reasonable ideas?
Yeah, thanks, Your Worship. Through you, just to clarify in a couple things. So the process often will be to when a council request comes in. So I know I heard your comments, Councilor Meredith, and I don't want there to be any ill will or anything, right? But the process that'll happen is those type of requests will come in through finance, and then they will ask respective departments for their opinions on how given that ask, you know, staff would recommend you make that a viable option. And what that would fully entail, we provide estimates on costing, on how to make it safe, et cetera. Cameras would be one thing that's, again, we always recommend now. We're in 2024. If you're taking money, cameras are one thing on the list that we include, or power again. You know, even just the salaries alone, again, we sort of came up with, you know, as you can see, we specified there, you know, if that's the type of service you're looking for, that's the kind of hours you would need. And here's even an estimate at 14, 20 hours per year of student time. At $15 an hour, you're at over $21,000 just for the students. So I respect that, you know, your estimate was between 5 and 8, but we try our best to put it together so that the other thing is so that, you know, there's no hidden costs, like say so that we really try to give you the full lay of the land so that you can make an educated decision as well. And there's no hidden costs, say that, like, we really try to go above and beyond to make sure that if you approve something like this today, you're not seeing increased costs that we didn't tell you about next year or next time, right? So just wanted to sort of speak to the process there too.
Councilor Meredith?
Yeah, thank you. the student, I'm just talking about the construction of the ticket booth, and I believe that's the wages are not included in that $27,400. That's over and above. That's to operate, right? So, right? So, and the user rates, or the $5,000 would be the fees generated from this estimated. So that is, if you have, so coming from business background, if those are the numbers that I'm dealt with, I'm obviously not gonna go forward with this if the projected income for the year is 5,000 and we're spending 60. Of course, that's just, right? I wouldn't have been in business for a minute, let alone 25 years. So my ask was a ticket booth. And if a ticket booth cannot be produced for under $10,000, we have a $30,000 or $22,000 or $30,000 for spending, right? That's $40,000. The previous year, we had $80,000 in projected revenue for the boat launch, and now it came from people coming and getting a sticker from the harbor master. And those were those numbers taken from there, I projected. And obviously, that didn't happen. I'm not sure I forget the numbers generated last year. They were well below. That's because there was no enforcement down. You could have sat a bylaw there on a nice sunny day from 8 in the morning till 9 at night on a lawn chair, and I'm sure we would have been, making some good money. So if we're not enforcing it, and if we're going to spend $30,000 or $27,000 on a shed, just cancel the program altogether. Because I know if I was, if this was privatized and I gave it to someone, they would make money at it. So, but they're not going to invest $30,000. If we invest $10,000 and there are nice little sheds out there, even a sea can, a small little sea can is $3,500. I've done the costing. A 10 by 10, 10 by 12 shed sold on Highway 93 is $7,000. We don't need a 10 by 10, and it still looks good. So if it doesn't work out for a $10,000 investment, then we can move the shed elsewhere, use it, butter tart, I don't know, as a ticket booth, or sell it. So I don't want to get heavily invested in here until we know we can make money at it. So that's the direction I want to go in. And if it's not feasible, if you don't think it's feasible, we'll just yank it. And then wait for the another parking committee to find a solution for parking, put another parking meter there, or scrap the program altogether. And then, if there's no enforcement, it's guaranteed we would have made money, a lot more money on it last year if there's enforcement.
Ms. Flannery?
Through your worship to Council Matters. Just again, a reminder, and council asks or requests here, staff isn't necessarily taking one position or the other, right? It really isn't, this is a council request or ask. Our role here is simply to try to, given the ask, provide our best estimate at what that would cost, what that would look like, and that's all we've done here. So again, we don't, staff hasn't taken a position here. This is an ask from council, so all we've done is try to provide our best estimate here at what it would take, and again at our standards too, right? We need to make sure it's a safe and secure location, that if there was a student there, that they're employed by the town of Midland, that they're going to be safe. So again, we really haven't taken one position or the other as a staff. It's just, we tried our best to present what that would look like given the request from council.
So which one of those numbers is the 3310 for the staff? Where's the staff, on the reserves or tax rate? Or 33,100, sorry.
The 33,100 is the staffing and utilities portion. And so that's just the coverage, as it says there, from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., 7 days a week during that 18-week period. And that is tax funded.
Okay, sorry, my draft has 28,100. I'm working off an old one.
Oh,
On the
sorry,
summary
on the
sheet.
summary, that's because we have the other portion of the staffing costs funded from those additional user rate revenue that we anticipate generating. So just to note, so we did on the boat launch passes down there last year. So as you said, we had a much greater budget. We ended up just shy of 30,000 in passes. And then we generated an additional 4,800 from the parking machines down there. And so again, that $5,000 estimate isn't unreasonable then, right? Given what we saw. So this would be an additional 5,000. On top of the 48 that we collected last year. So say a $10,000 estimate for user fees down there.
So
Per
if,
day.
if council said you got 10 grand to put in a ticket booth and we're gonna pay the wages as described in the estimates, can staff deliver?
Through your worship, I will just start off. I'm not sure from a building perspective, so what the cost of the container may be. I would say some of the one-time costs for getting the connectivity there and the IT costs might, and the security camera would bring it very close to that 10,000. So I'll maybe see if, what the cost may be on actually getting a building in there.
Through your worship to members of council, the again, if you were requesting maybe a temporary, like Mr. Mayor had spoke about, similar to the office sheds or construction site sheds sort of thing, something like that is sort of say in the $1,600 to $2,000 a month range to rent. So I could, throw that out there as an option, maybe if that would be preferable.
Clearly, I have no idea what these things really cost to rent in the real world. Because they're not pretty. Councillor Ball.
Thanks. I was just going to comment on the security camera. I mean, we don't have security cameras in every park that we have a student in. I don't think that's a necessity for this. Like we're saying, we're going to call the OPP if there's an issue. I mean, you're not really doing anything other than checking stickers on people's cars. Is that, we're not collecting money or anything, correct?
Yeah, we're collecting money. There'd be a ability to pay on the spot there. That's actually the whole reason why they're there. is to-
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull this from the ask, okay? Thank you.
All right.
Having said that, I really urge that we encourage the bylaw department to be there regularly and ticket them and follow through if they haven't bought their pass.
I could even go one step further because a ticket's just the cost of having a good time in Georgian Bay. Tow it. You want to really hurt people who aren't paying, tow their rig along with their trailer. We'll find compliance pretty darn quick then. Because it's not hard to go down to Palm Beach and see people with 15, 20 tickets on their window and they don't care. It's the cost of a day from if you're from GTA. Councillor Downer.
Thank you, your worship. I think what you had here this past year was some pushback because you raised the fee to $100. There's a lot of guys that wouldn't use the ramp or the launch because of that. And I bought my permit, launched my boat, but there was lots of boats and trailers down there and trucks that never used the fee. They were there and nobody was ticketing them. And I mean lots of them. So, but I think you had a great deal of pushback because of it.
Yeah, Councillor Downer or Councillor Meredith.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The biggest complaint I had is the people that they didn't mind paying, but it was the three people in front of them that didn't pay. And then they had to wait to launch their boat. right? So that's why it's imperative when this got brought up last year and passed, that was the intention. But there was no policing down there. So the people that paid, suffered. So that's why this ask was here, as it should have been probably be done last year, and policed, So it's unfortunate because this can make money. I can't see it not, but anyways.
Madam CEO?
Through your worship, if I could maybe offer an alternative, if we could go investigate, because right now there is no parking and parking meters down there, so we would not be able to go and ticket anyone because they don't have the opportunity to pay. So, yeah, but if no one bought a pass, there would be it would be more difficult. So some people could go in and launch and then leave. So you're right. There could be if they didn't have a pass or a sticker in there, but if there's an opportunity for staff to take this back and investigate with some of the parameters and come back to council, that might be another option to figure out how we could try to monetize this.
Well, that's fair. I mean, I could offer, a perspective on this because we're not enforcing parking, right? People can go down there, park, and you can take your dog for a walk or play at the Ball Diamond or stare at Georgian Bay. But if you got a boat trailer, which one must have to enjoy the boat launch, then we can just have a sign prohibiting boats or boat trailers and the vehicle they're attached to from parking down there, unless you have paid. And then it becomes easy and it's easy to enforce. So there's a quick and easy solution. You're not gonna, you'll find the odd guy that'll splash their boat and then go park at Bayport or whatever. Like there's always a cheapskate or someone who just really wants to do that. But most people with their nice big trucks and their trailers, if it's just a prohibition on trucks and trailer parking, unless you have a displaying a pass, that makes it easy for us to enforce without wading into a quasi parking solution when we're trying to solution that across the whole town. So maybe that's a compromise we could look at. Sounds like to me it's an easy thing to pass. Maybe we're simplifying it, but you know who your offenders are going to be because they got a trailer on the back that doesn't have a boat on it.
I think with the meters being decommissioned this year, this attendant here at the boat launch not having any type of policing, I think the whole thing should be scrapped. I think until, because obviously we're not gonna, there's no way for them to pay without a meter system like we just had. And because I'm pretty sure that they're not going to be recommissioned. So I don't even know how this parking is going to work down there without an attendant there. It's very complicated for staff, and you know what? And if this is not going to happen, then I say we scrap the whole thing and then possibly scrap that whole revenue stream until that committee gets together and figures a solution for all the parking meters. And then if we're going to still put a meter out there, or there shouldn't be a meter down at the boat launch because you're going to have the same situation where you're not going to create the revenues. People are going to be doing it for free, or you know what? They take their chances and we increase the fines. So we could play with that, I guess, at a later date, but I don't see how this is going to work for 2024, honestly. Thank you.
Okay, so should we have, are you talking about putting a motion on the floor to eliminate paid boat launch entirely? Since there's no ability to really enforce it and it's hit and miss, no way to pay down there, and it's just kind of a cluster. So, Councillor East?
Thank you, through your worship. I think for this year, we should go back to free boat launch parking for Midland residents. That way they can pick up their passes and then display them in the front windows like we've done for many years. And if we see a front window without a display, by law, can tow that car. Every Midland resident knows that we got to put that on our front windshield and it's evenly displayed. So anything that doesn't have a free parking permit sticker on it is obviously not a Midland resident.
So we'll have to make an amendment. If we go this way, we'll have to make an amendment to something we previously approved that just change the fees for non-residents to be able to buy a pass, because there would be no pass for non-residents. Is that correct?
No, I think there still should be a pass for non-residents, but I already tried to change this so we could have free parking for residents, and I was told we weren't allowed to change that, so.
It would need to be revisited. But I think out of necessity, we're kind of painted into a corner here. We don't have much of a choice. Councilor Meredith?
I just don't see unless staff can tell me how that parking down at the boat launch is gonna work without the parking meter being in commission. So they're decommissioned. So how's that gonna work? That's the question that we need an answer to. Because I think in the fee schedule, there's a bunch of question marks on the boat launch and everything that we'll be probably tackling tomorrow. It was under review, I believe. I read the fees. So, and I don't want to make this confusing for the public or our residents. So, unless we can find unless I can put a plan together and get some costing together and put this thing out there, but I don't think that's allowed. So,
Councilor East?
So let me just throw this one out there. We'll continue the free parking for Midland residents, and any other resident that wants to purchase a permit pass is still $200 for any out of town. So that way they still have to go to the Harborfront, purchase their pass. And that can be easily advertised on the Midland website that parking is free for Midland residents. If you're an out of towner, you can purchase a parking permit for $200, which will still have some sort of revenue coming in.
I mean, I like the idea that you said about having a truck or trailer parking. You can obviously see who needs to be ticketed based off that. That's a solution I think makes sense to me.
All right, well, why don't we think about this? We don't have to decide right now. Basically, we're going to gas this request, and but staff have heard us. Let's park this one and have a conversation at a council meeting about what we want to do on this, because no one's splashing their boat for the next few months. Well, at this rate, you never know. But we have some time, because it definitely sounds like there's an appetite. We want to do the right thing by our community, and we don't want to spend money frivolously, nor do we want to make any knee-jerk quick solutions around the council table. So, all right, so that one's removed. Madam CFO, we'll just remove that one entirely for now, and we'll come back by way of motion, and we'll come up with a plan together with staff on what to do for the spring. And Councilor East has requested that both of his council requests be eliminated. We don't need to get into any debate on them right now. He's just choosing to, I'm speaking for him. He's sitting right next to me here, but he's told me this. So just want to pull those. And then I have a new one to throw on the floor right now, and then we're almost done. I know I'm trying to get out of here at 6:30, but this is important. We got to tie the knot. It has to do with parking meters. So my suggestion in the motion is going to be that we allow staff to dispose of all of our parking meters. That involves them uninstalling them, making the ground safe wherever there's bolts sticking out. And, oh, sorry, yep, Councillor Downer is going to stay out of parking. So we've already decided, and it was quite a weird debate we had on this when we were originally planning on keeping a few of them and then selling the rest. That didn't pass. So right now we're stuck with all of these things, and they're aging, and they're devaluing, and they're suffering from elements, and there's no plan to reuse these machines. So first of all, I need a motion to revisit, to get this back on the floor. And then my main motion, which will follow that, is to simply allow staff to find a buyer and enjoy some revenue, whatever that is, for however they sell these to whomever they want, but just get them off our streets. So I actually have to do the motion now. So we got to suspend. Yeah, so there's three. It's a three-fer again. Two-fer. Okay. Actually, can't say two-fer. All right. So this motion is that the rules of procedure be suspended in order for council to reconsider an item about the parking consideration. I'll read the whole thing in a moment, but that's the first one's to reconsider. I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Prost, seconded by Counselor East. That the rules of procedure be suspended in order for council to reconsider item 17.2 CSR 2023-97, implementation of a parking program recommendations, and more specifically, COW 2023-56, respecting the disposal of the on-street parking meters that were discussed at the regular meeting of council with closed session on December 6, 2023. All in favor, so we can talk about this? Any opposed? Okay, that's carried. Next, I have a motion that council approves the disposition of 50 on-street parking meters with an estimated cost. Is 50 all of them? I thought we had more than 50. 7-0, that's what I thought. So I'm just going to manually adjust this, but the record will fix it. The council approves the disposition of 70 on-street parking meters with an estimated cost recovery of, and it was not 103, it was like 114. Was it 103? All right, well, whatever. Get as much as you can for them. And a loss on disposal of 414.5, and that's for transparency's sake, because these bad boys were expensive, and we are taking a bath, and we know that. So I need a mover and a seconder for this. Moved by Councillor Prost, seconded by Councillor Meredith. So again, that's telling staff to decommission and sell all 70 machines and put the money into the parking reserve or whatever, because we're going to need it for parking 2.0. Do we need to have debate about this? No. Call the question. All in favor? Hand up for that one. That is carried. All right, council. We are on track. Tomorrow, when we resume, we have the ABCs. But, there's another motion or something else, Madam CEO.
So through your worship, there is a motion that the clerk is just putting together for this. So she'll have it to you in a minute. There is one item we did want clarity on from the previous motion that came forward, and that was with regards to the contract position. So whether it was actually a year contract that you had anticipated, or it was an open just contract. We just wanted to make sure.
It was Councillor Ball's baby.
Yes, an open contract. I think, what did we say that we have secured funding for? How long was that? Maybe you can tell me how long the funding already is for?
Through your worship to Councillor Ball. So that funding is in place basically as long as we have the transit service. And so my comment was really around an earlier comment this morning, I believe, about, the county possibly taking this over at a point in time. I think 5 to 10 years was the estimate that we provided.
So 3 years is more, as much as I can do for this term. Like,
Thank you. And through your worship, in the last motion, we actually had 1 year in there in error. So if, I guess if we could deal with it, if it is up to the 3 years that was anticipated, if that could be changed. Thank you.
for the duration of the council term.
Thank you.
Sure. Do we need an amending motion?
Yeah, if it could be a friendly amendment, then it could work that way.
Very good. We all agree on the record here that it's going to be an offer of employment for 3 years on a contract basis for that position. Show of hands. Just so there's something for there we go. All right. So we're just waiting for updated motions to wrap up what we just discussed. Madam CFO, based on, I know the urgent edits and all the stuff we're doing here, is it possible to get an idea where we're at with the tax increase before we leave for tonight? So we can either go home and drown a bottle of scotch or pop some champagne? Okay, moved by Councillor Merritt, seconded by Councillor Ball. That council requests a net tax levy increase of $0 and funding added to the reserve of 103, perhaps more. And that's from selling the meters. And user fees funding of $0 be approved as amended by removing the boat launch and parking attendant shelter request, removing the transit to Bomb Beach pilot, removing the Aberdeen and Sunnyside transit pilot, and adding parking meter disposal in the amount of $103,000. All those in favor? Any opposed? All right, that is carried. And last but not least, moved by Councillor Bald, seconded by Councillor Meredith, second last but not least, the council requests. This one's good to go, Madam Clerk? Number 19? No edits to that one? Okay. Yes. Yes, there are edits or no? This one says net tax levy increase of 82,004. No. That's the amended one. Okay, so we are down to the last one. Okay, so I don't want to adjourn the session because we're waiting for the number and the drum roll to see where we're at after today. Oh, it's on the screen. Where are we now? Blended down to, I can't see it. Oh, it's on my laptop. I'm sorry. 4.42%. And where did we start today? 5.45 down to 4.42. So 1%. I'll take it. Now tomorrow's another day. Everything we're going to talk about tomorrow hits the tax rate. So ladies and gentlemen, thank you for your patience. So I have a motion moved by Councillor McDonald, seconded by Councillor Reese, that the special meeting of council will close session regarding the 2024 budget held on January 31st, 2024, recess at 6:22 p.m. and resume tomorrow, February 1st, 2024 at 9 a.m. All those in favor? Thank you, council. We'll see you tomorrow.